Hi, this is Tricia Woolfrey from Your Empowered Self, and welcome to my podcast, How to Manage Stress. And in this episode, I'm in conversation with Amanda Littlecott, who's a photo organizer. Now, I don't know about you, but my photos are all over the place. I do have some very organized albums. I also have a suitcase of other people's albums, my parents actually, and I have a phone that is full chock-a-block of stuff which I have no idea what to do with. So I'm hoping that we'll get some tips from Amanda on how to manage that in an effective way, because after all, when we take photos, they're to give us pleasure and to have happy memories, and they're no good if they're all disorganized. So before I have a chat with Amanda about that, I'm going to ask her what it is that stresses her out on a day-to-day basis. Hello, Amanda.
Hi, so thank you for having me. And I would say what stresses me out on a day-to-day basis is emails. Emails drive me crazy because they just keep coming, don't they? They're
They
like,
do.
it's just when you think you've like cleared them all out, it's just another one pops in, and they all kind of pop in at times when you're just like, oh, the end of the day, and they all come at 5 o'clock. So I find emails like really stressful, and I think when it comes to emails, I kind of end up like taking like two strategies to try and solve this. So I know that if I need to respond to emails, I find it really draining because you've got to be, what am I going to say? How am I going to say it? So what I tend to do with my emails is actually, rather than do them at the beginning of the day so that it drains me, I do them at the end of the day. So get to the end of the day, write all my emails, but I don't send them. I delay the sending. So all of the email kind of Google, Outlook and stuff, you can delay the sending till the next day. So it's kind of like people get the emails the next day, but I'm actually writing the previous day so I can wake up in the morning and then I can actually do some work rather than thinking like emails, I've got to write some emails. So that kind of chills me out. And then the other thing is that every so often, and I'm actually doing it at the moment, I go through a mass unsubscribe. So every time an email comes in that I don't want, I'm like, unsubscribe, unsubscribe. So I kind of stop it.
I love the aggression that you do that with. Unsubscribe.
Yeah, because sometimes it takes a couple of
Unsubscribe
goes.
with love. Thank you, but no more.
Yeah. But then sometimes, sometimes it takes a couple of goes for you to
Yeah.
unsubscribe. So you're like, I really, yes, I don't want to hear from you. Thank you so much. Because I can always resubscribe if I find that I really want that information. But yeah,
With
you end
regards to
up
your
with,
first idea, I love it. So what you're doing is you're finding when you're most productive and you're dealing with it then. And because you struggle with the wording sometimes, you're giving yourself time to think about it. So I think that's a great idea. Sorry. I've had this cough for months and it won't go. Anyway, um, my strategy is different. I like to answer things straight away so that it's off my plate, but I find it easy to word things, and usually I'm happy with how it's done straight away. But I think if you're not, that's brilliant. You just have to remember to go into them to make sure you're okay with them.
yeah, and actually I don't leave emails in my inbox, even if I'm not going to answer them straight away. What I do is I follow a strategy of, I have I have a to-do list. So you can like Outlook tasks is a good way of doing it. I use a thing called ClickUp where I basically just do all of my, life stays in there around my to-do list. And if there's an email that I don't need to respond to straight away, I create like a task for that email that maybe I need to look at it in a couple of days. I attach the email to the task and then it goes out of my inbox. So my inbox ends up really clean. And
Oh
it's
my God, genius. Because
no,
I like to keep everything in my life in my inbox. Oh, yes. No,
no,
it's
I get
horrible.
pretty, yeah,
And it's
I get.
horrific at the moment. I got it low and it's all high. So you mentioned a product. What is it you put it into?
So I use a thing called ClickUp, which is a project management tool.
Ah,
It's exactly how you say it, ClickUp.
yeah.
I have a really nice kind of free version. There is a bit of a setup that's required to get you kind of going, but there's an add-in that you can add into like Outlook and Google so that I can then create tasks from in my email. So I don't have to go anywhere. And it just reminds me things like, so maybe you send an email to someone, you're like, oh, I need to follow up with them in a week's time. So you can then create the task for a week's time, attach the email that you sent. And then when you go a week later, you're like, okay, I've got to remember, right, where's that email? It's in my task. So yeah, so
Yes.
ClickUp is a really nice way of doing it.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Brilliant.
Yeah.
very much.
So yes, I get
Okay,
freaked
we
out.
could
I
do a
get
whole
freaked out.
session just on that, actually.
Yeah, I was going to say I get freaked out if there's not white at the bottom of my emails, but you know. But
So
I just
photographs, oh my, honestly. Yeah, so my phone, I do take photographs, but my phone is just a chaos of photographs. There is no structure. If I'm looking for something, it's scrolling. And if I'm trying to show somebody, they've lost the will to live before I found it. My albums at home, they're fairly organized. And now I've got a whole suitcase full of my parents' photographs that I sometime need to go through.
yeah.
What's going on?
Yeah, so I mean, you've mentioned exactly the two areas where people have problems with photos. It's like we've got all of our digital lives, and then we've got all this printer stuff, which is still kind of there and sort of hanging around. But we end up with kind of stress in both of those areas when it comes to photos. So when it comes to your phone, the stress is exactly what you said. I can't find it. Why have I, you get a little message from like Apple or Google going, you need to buy more storage. And you know that half of those photos you probably don't want, but you're paying to store all of that stuff. So it's just, and then it's like, I can't find anything. And also, actually, is everything safe and sound? What happens if I lose my phone? So, these are all our memories. These are really important to us, and people don't want to lose them. So it can be like a stressful thing, but then it's kind of like we love our photos. So it's almost like very emotional. It's like we love our photos, but they're really stressful.
Yeah.
And also we take way more. It's really funny. Whenever I organize people's photos, you can spot to like almost the month, the year, the month and the year when they got their first kind of real proper iPhone, because the number of photos just shoots up. If you think, we used to take, films of 36 film, and you go on holiday and you might take 236 as if you're feeling really crazy. And that would be your entire holiday.
And you throw a lot of those away because they were badly taken. Yeah.
Exactly. But you would take like one of you, and you would take one of you at dinner, and you would take what, because these were precious photos and you had to pay. There was because there was a cost to it. I think you kind of knew what you were doing.
Yeah.
So, but now, I mean, you can take 50 photos of your dinner if you want. So,
and I think people do.
And people do. And I think that's the thing. It's kind of like, well, we're using our phones in a different way. And also, as you say, we use them for things that aren't photos that we want to keep. So we take a picture of like a label or a gas meter. See a lot of those, cars or, let's just say some of the things that then get sent to doctors, like, knees and rashes.
Body parts, yes.
Yeah, exactly. So we use them as like a record, but do we really want to leave that to our family, the record of the label of the Marks and Spencer's top that we wanted to buy? So it's kind of like, it's just a building mass, and we're creating more and more. And I think that's the thing, we can see ourselves creating more and more when it comes to digital stuff. So it's kind of addressing, how do we overcome this total overwhelm that we have with digital life? And there's a few things that we can do actually. And I would say the first thing is to actually think about when you're taking a photo. So actually be a little bit more mindful about taking those photos. Do I really need to take the picture of my dinner 5 times? What, do I actually, if I'm at a party, what are the photos that I want to take? What are the moments I want to capture? And so that I can then actually enjoy the party.
Well, that's a really good point, because I think a lot of people are so intent on taking photos that they are not present to whatever's going on. So what they're capturing on their phone, they're not even experiencing, and they have to almost experience it vicariously through the photos. It's such a shame. So that mindfulness of what you want to do and how is a really good idea.
Yeah, and there are ways to make sure that you capture all those moments. Is it that if there's a whole family or there's lots of people at the party, you say, well, can you take the picture of the cake so I can be with my child enjoying the cake? Or, how are you going to share those photos so you get like the whole event without having to think, I've got to get every single moment, otherwise my child is not going to know what happened at their birthday party. So it's kind of thinking what are you going to take and how can you capture the moments without being stuck behind your phone? It's like when you go to music gigs nowadays, there's some people who are just sat like looking at the gig through their phone. And I'm like, no, the person is behind them. That's who you've come to see. So be present and just be really thoughtful about not adding to your photos. That's definitely something to start.
Brilliant. Okay.
Yeah. But then obviously that doesn't address all of the other stuff that you've got hanging around. So how do we address all of that other stuff, that, the historical stuff? And actually some of our apps are trying to help us find some of that stuff. So every single photo app that I've ever found has got a media types that they have taken stuff that you've taken, like videos, selfies, screenshots, always a good one. And they've put them into little albums for you. So in Apple, you just have to go to search, and on kind of most other phones, it will either be in albums or search. So have a look. And there will be sections of things like screenshots, which is a really good place to start, rather than scrolling from, starting at the beginning. I know that, Julie Andrews said, start at the very beginning. It's a very good place to start. We don't need to do that with our photos.
No,
just
the rule doesn't apply to everything.
Exactly. So go in, see how many screenshots you've got, and then start deleting those, because those are probably the things that you don't want. So using all those media types, having a look at videos, selfies. I am really bad at taking selfies. So there's usually about 5 of me trying to get the phone in the right position. So that's a good spot for me to go and delete the ones where I've done a weird face or not quite managed it, or my head's missing. So but just, use the tools that are there to help us. But also you can use the search function. So all of this fancy, we're all talking about AI now, but technically we've all been using AI to do with our camera and our phones for years, because that's what facial recognition has been, that has been on an iPhone for ages and in Google Photos. So you can use that search function to find things that you either take a lot of photos of, or stuff that you think you might not want. So you have a dog, put the word dog in, and all of the dog photos will appear, and then maybe you might want to get rid of them. It's okay to part with some of these photos.
Even though you haven't called it dog, you haven't called it anything.
So even though you haven't called it dog,
Isn't that
our
interesting?
phones are scanning our images to try and find stuff. So, because ultimately the search function was there to help us find the stuff that we liked, but actually you can use it to find topics that you then want to clear out. So I had a client whose husband was really into cars. So there was lots of pictures of cars. So if I put the word car in, I got all the pictures of cars, and I was like, well, that's a repeat. We don't need that. But you can also use it for things like if you put the word text or document, all of the things like if you've taken a picture of a receipt, those will come up. Menus, if you've taken a lot of menus because you can't read them. You
can't even read them when they're on the phone.
I know, yeah, exactly. So it's kind of thinking like, I love a sunset. I take way too many sunsets, and when you get them home, they're like, so what was the point? So if you put the word sunset in, I can then find all my lovely sunsets and then go, that's a really good one. I'm going to delete that one. So the search function is a really good way to kind of start sorting your photos and get rid of that backlog without having to sit there and scroll through everything.
Yeah. So what else do people need to think about in terms of how they organize things? So because there's a couple of things, isn't there? It's kind of making them safe. So, I know of somebody who had their phone stolen, and that was it, photos gone. But also there's retrieving easily something that, so I said I have to scroll and scroll and scroll.
Yeah.
If I know the date, that's okay. But I don't know the date.
Yeah. So that type of thing is getting into a bit of a habit. So when it comes to organizing your digital photos, it's thinking like every month I'm going to go and I'm going to have a quick sort of the last month. So it's kind of slowly attacking your photos. When you're sat making a cup of tea, just spend 5 minutes having a bit of a delete. But also the other thing to do is to favorite. So on all apps, you can like heart or star your favorite photo. So when you find a photo that you really like, favorite it. When you've come back from holiday, maybe you've come back from an event, have a scroll through and look which are your favorite photos. And those will then go into an album of favorites. So you've got less to scroll through to try and find.
Does it if you do that, that sounds brilliant. But if you've got it in another album, say you went on holiday to Croatia,
Yeah,
if you put it in the Croatia album and it's a favorite in there, is it also a favorite in your
in the
favorites?
yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
excellent.
so this is a comment. So people kind of think, oh, am I duplicating my photos by putting them to albums? And you're not. So most apps will have like a stream of photos which you're scrolling. And then you can create albums off the side. And then kind of the images that are in your album are almost like kind of like a ghost copy. It's like a recognition to say the photo is actually still in your stream of stuff, but I'm also associated with this album. And I'm, so you can put a photo into 5 different albums if you want, but probably might be a little bit overwhelming. But yeah, if you put something into a favorite and then you put it into Croatia, it will still exist in those 2 places and it will exist in your stream. So you can still find everything, but those copies are not actually direct copies. They're just an
They're
association.
not taking space up in your,
You're not taking any more space
whatever
up.
you call it.
No. Yeah, your gigabytes. You're not
Yeah,
taking,
gigabytes.
yeah,
Yes, I never
yeah.
understand all of that.
Yeah, so that's a really
That's
nice
good
way of
to know.
kind of finding your favorite. And as I say, just getting into the habit so you come back from holiday, first thing, you're sat waiting for your bags to arrive and at the airport. So that's the point to kind of go, well, I'm bored. Go through my photos. So, also it's quite fun. I tend to do mine almost like as I go along. So I tend to kind of, if I've been out for the day, it will be like 5 minutes of, well, I don't need those, that was a bad shot, that was a good shot, delete them. So that it feels less overwhelming. So when I come back to, all my photos are look kind of more clearer, and I know I can find all my favorites.
Mm,
But
excellent.
yeah, but you also mentioned about the safe thing and, kind of making sure that they're safe.
Yeah.
And yes, I think this is a constant stress for people because, as you say, phones get stolen, phones get dropped. And ultimately, we are basically carrying around all of our photos on a device that we take out of the house, which we never, you wouldn't walk out with all of your photo albums, would you, in a box and walk around with them all day? So we've got all these precious stuff and we're like literally on their, on the phones. And whenever I kind of have a chat with someone about their digital photos, the first question I ask them is, are you backing up your phone to any form of service? And when people say no, I'm like, right, sort that out immediately. Because that is, for me, that's a stress for me because I'm like, oh my God, they lose their phone or it breaks. I feel kind of a responsibility to make sure that their photos are all safe. So that's a stress for me. So it's making sure that your photos are backed up somewhere else. And usually that means like a cloud or a computer or a hard drive. And when we talk about backing up photos, we talk about the 3-2-1 approach, which is you should have 3 copies of your data at any one time across 2 different formats. So just having it in Apple iCloud, which is also not really a backup, I'll talk about that in a minute. So just having it on a cloud service is not enough. You need to have it in 2 different formats. So whether it's a cloud service and a hard drive, a cloud service and a kind of a cloud backup service, which are literally just taking your data and putting it somewhere else. So, hard drive, another computer, some computers might have enough space to put all your photos, but it's having it in 2 different formats. And then one is considered to be off-site is the best way to put it. So there is no point in having your photos on your phone, a computer and a hard drive, and then putting them all in the same house. Because if the worst happens to that house, all of those things are gone. So it's kind of having a cloud service can sort of kind of be an off-site because it's somewhere else. But if you're putting it on computers and hard drives, have a hard drive somewhere else so that if you need to restore it, you can restore it. So it's thinking about that kind of 3-2-1 approach. And lots of people just go, well, it's on the iCloud, it's fine. Yeah, that's not fine because
Why?
so iCloud is in fact a syncing service. So iCloud was set up to be able for you to be able to access all of your stuff across all of it, all of your devices. And therefore it's what I call a 2-way street. So it's trying to sync, it's trying to make sure everything is the same. And if I went to your phone and I deleted all of your photos and emptied your trash bin, there would be no way of you getting those photos back. Gone forever. Whereas what you want is what we call a one-way street. So you want it to be backing up so that if I went to your phone and deleted everything, you could restore it from your backup. So iCloud is not that as a service.
So are you saying, I don't know if I understood that. So are you saying that if you delete something from the phone, it deletes it from the cloud?
Yes.
Oh dear.
On iCloud. Whereas if you use things like Dropbox, Google Drive, Google Photos, some of the other backup services, things like Backblaze, things like that. If I go onto my phone now and I delete a photo, so my stuff backs up to OneDrive. If I delete that photo on my phone, I can go and restore it from OneDrive, because it's a one-way street. It's on its little island in a cupboard, and I can restore it. And
Right.
essentially, that is kind of what you should be doing for all of your data. Anything digital, you should be able to restore it from a isolated backup somewhere.
Yeah.
Whether it's taking a copy of everything, putting it on a hard drive, it's just something that needs to be isolated and not trying to make everything the same.
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
So, but also it's just making sure that everything is backing up. So going in and testing it every so often. I do that myself for all of my backups. I go in and kind of go, is that the latest photo? Because some of the times the apps just decide to stop doing it, because why not?
Really?
So sometimes you have to kind of open them up, give them a kick, just kind of go, is everything backing up as it should be? Because our kind of technically our digital world is actually more at risk of loss than our printed photos.
So how would somebody who's not into all of this stuff particularly, that just because they have to be really, how does one find out if it's working or not?
So if you're backing up to a cloud service, so if you're backing up, so iCloud technically, so if you're backing up to like OneDrive or Dropbox or any, go to that service and see if, I always take a photo of something random, plant, picture, and then see whether that photo appears in your online. So go to the online version in the web browser and go and check to see if that photo appears.
Yeah. And if it doesn't appear, you get in touch with your IT person.
Yes, or me, and I tell you how to do it.
Or you, okay.
And I'm like,
Gosh,
no,
I didn't know that. Wow, okay. And so I'm probably not the only person who's got a suitcase full of somebody else's photos. And it's been quite a few years now, and it's taking up space in my home, and I don't want to throw them away, but I know that a lot of them will be rubbish or duplicated, or we don't even know who the people are anymore. What is the best way of dealing with something like that?
Yeah, and you're not alone with the inherited photos. And I think that's where we are now, is people are inheriting all of these boxes of photos, and we don't know who they are. We don't know what to do with them. And they take up a lot of space. They're quite, kind of bulky, especially if they're in albums as well. They just take up a ton of space. So the first thing that I always say when you're kind of inheriting all this stuff is, if they are in albums, especially those horrible sticky ones or the pockets, those albums are actually not very good for your photos. They are
A bit
making them.
deteriorated, I have to say.
Yeah.
Is that what you mean?
Yeah. So essentially, sometimes you see the photos and they kind of turn this little red color. And it's because the acids in all of those albums are actually not very good for your photos.
Okay.
So my best suggestion when it comes to albums is take them out. So remove them from those albums, because one, it'd be better for your photos, and it's easier to kind of capture them, which we'll talk about in a minute. But also, it just saves you a ton of space. You'd be so surprised that I had kind of a client who had 84 photo albums. So it was quite high. And when we took them all out, it was 4 shoe boxes worth of photos. That is so much easier to put away.
Yeah.
But yeah, when you're sorting your photos, I'm also here to give you a license to throw away your photos. People find it really hard to throw away printed photos. But if it's a duplicate, if it's a bad shot, if it is a hill that you don't know where it is, if it's a person you don't know who it is okay to throw away those photos.
Yeah.
It's fine. So, it feels quite, some people, I think because we waited for them and there's money, and you wouldn't probably hang on to it as much if it was a digital photo. It's okay to throw away those photos. But to be able to sort those photos, I follow the ABCs of photo organizing. So first of all, what you need to do is the reason I just said shoe boxes, because I sort everyone's photos into shoe boxes, because it's really hard if you lay it out on a table, it just takes up so much space. So get yourself some simple shoe boxes and some pieces of paper that will kind of be separators. And you have one shoebox, which is your A's. So these are your albums. So these are your favorite photos, your amazing ones. These are the ones that if they were on your phone, you would have favorited them. These are the ones that you love. You might get, kind of enlarged and put onto the wall. Those are your A's. So you've got a shoebox of A's. And then you've got a shoebox of B's, which are your box photos. So these are photos that kind of support the A's, but you probably wouldn't, kind of make them into digital copies and put them on the wall and all that kind of stuff. But they kind of tell the story of you. And then, so you have a box of B's. And then you've got C, which we go a little bit American, and it's the can. So it's the trash can. So those are the ones that I've given you license to get rid of. Those are the ones that can go. That's it.
Yeah.
And then S is for stories. So S are photos that they tell a story. They tell a story maybe of you or something that you remember. But you're not going to put them in an album, but they make you laugh. So I always give the example of I've got a photo of my dearly departed dad helping me put together my bed frame. It's one of those kind of like wooden bed frames in my new flat. But he wasn't great at DIY, and he was using like a towel rail, one of those kind of stands you put your towels on, to prop up a piece of the bed, and he managed to get it stuck in the bed frame. He screwed it into the bed frame. So I was like, I have no idea.
I would probably call that a favorite. So what are you gonna, because that's such a happy little memory, isn't it?
Yeah, so that one goes in my story. So I have no idea why we took a photo of it. It's so weird, but we were probably using up a film. That's what we used to do. But it's a really lovely story, and I love that story, and I love that photo. But I'm not going to take it and put it on the wall or make an album of it. But I want to keep it, and I want to keep it in my kind of my archive of my life. So once you've kind of got all these shoe boxes, then the little paper dividers are to kind of separate out photos, maybe by year, by event, by person. Sometimes people do it. And then, so you've got a nice little sorted shoe boxes of photos, and your can ones are going, and then you've got your A, B's and C's. And then what you can do is you can decide what you want to do with them. And what lots of people do is then we digitize them. So we turn them into a digital format, so you can scan them. There's all sorts of ways of doing it. There are actually apps on your phone that will do it, but if you use your phone, you're probably not going to get the quality that you need if you then want to enlarge it or reprint it. But it's free. You can do that. There's a thing called Google Photo Scan, which is free, and you can scan your photos really, really easily. Or one called Photo Mine, which is really nice. So digitize them, or there's photo specialist scanners out there. There's a thing called the Fast Photo, which does like a whole stack of photos, or kind of flatbed ones, or you can get professionals like me who will digitize them for you. And then once they're digitized, then you can decide what you want to do with the original printed photos. Some people just go, I don't want them. It's fine. Some people, we can get, put them into archive boxes, because now we've probably got you down to like a couple of boxes, which is easy. These little kind of shoe boxes, and you can put them in a cupboard, have them beautifully labeled, but you've saved yourself a ton of space. But those digital ones can be added to all of your digital archive, which obviously you're now going to be backing up properly. And you can then share them with all of your family and, embarrass them like I do on regular occasions to my brother. So
if you do that, then, so in the very, very, very old days, I can't even remember the name of it, but you would be able to project your photos onto a screen.
Oh, the slides, yeah.
What was that called? I don't know.
So they were just slides, like the
they were slides.
Yeah.
So if they're all held on your mobile device, but you've got a room full of people that you want to share it with, what is the best way of doing that?
Well, the best way to do it now is with all our smart TVs, you can project to your TV.
No, can you?
Yeah, you can
cast. I'm not so smart with my smart TV, I have to say. I need to be a bit upgraded.
Those smart TVs, you can cast to your TV, Or if it's things like old videos and stuff, you can load them up and keep them private in YouTube. So most TVs have got YouTube as an app as well.
Yeah.
There's also a really lovely app out there called Projector, which yeah, you can load videos up to and photos, and you can sit and you can watch them. But essentially, your TV is a really good way of sharing photos to a room full of people. That's a really lovely
So
way.
you use the term cast. How do you do that?
So it depends on what your TV is like, but usually if you go on a phone, an iPhone, it's normally like there's a little kind of screen mirroring. It looks like two little boxes together. And on a Samsung, it's like, yeah, mirror cast. So just kind of like if you Google whatever that is for your phone, and then as long as your phone is a smart TV, so you're able to pick stuff up, you basically just find your TV and you cast to it. Similar to if
Smart
you,
TV Demona.
yeah.
I did not know.
Yes, so that's a great way of doing it to a room of people.
Yeah, fantastic.
I'm also a huge fan of digital photo frames, which
Yeah,
so lots of people remember the old ones. You know, we used to get the USB stick and you'd stick it in the
yeah,
back, and you'd never change the photo, so you used to get bored of looking at the same ones.
yeah.
Whereas, you know, life has moved on when it comes to digital photo frames, and now they're all like Wi-Fi, and you have an app on your phone where you can control the photos. So my brother, when he goes on holiday with my nephews and niece, can email photos directly to my frame and my mum's frame. So they can send us photos while they're on holiday, which
Oh,
is
wow.
great, but also slightly annoying because it's like, we're on holiday. But that's fine. So yeah, so those are great. So when I was away recently, I was sending photos back to the photo frame. So my mum would be like commenting, going, "Where are you now? What is that?" So they're really nice because you can like just see photos. It's a great way of engaging with family, especially over
Absolutely
the last
lovely.
few years. My mum loves hers. I still get sung happy birthday to my mum, not to me, because we're on the same playlist, which is about, I think it's about 4 years old, but my mum still gets wished happy birthday every day by her photo frame because my brother put a video of it. So we still get sung happy
Oh,
birthday. But those are a really nice way of just kind of releasing your photos from your phone, because I think our photos are kind of now stuck on all these devices and we're actually not enjoying them. Like, you know, you can get them printed out. So these two photos that are behind me are photos from trips that I've gone, yeah, I want to print them out. I want to stick them on the wall. I want to enjoy them, because flicking through a phone just it's not quite as
not
exciting.
quite the same, is it? I
Mm.
have a friend who calls Facebook her diary. And so she takes loads of photos and she puts lots of words about the photo, to make the story come alive, kind of thing. And she says, so I see Facebook as my diary. Is there a digital way of doing the same thing? So the photo is just the photo and you have to know the story, but that tells the story as well. Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
so there's different ways of doing it. So the app that I mentioned before about digitizing your photo with your phone, so Photo Mine, you can actually add captions and stories and voice notes with your photos. So that's a really nice way of doing it. But also all of our images have what we call metadata, not to get too technical, but they basically just have a shed load of information behind them. And there are various programs that you can do to access that data. There's a free one called Adobe Bridge. And so if I took one of your photos, I would probably be able to tell you where you took it, what time of day you took it, whether the flash went off, or what make of phone you have. So there's all this data that's going on in the back of our photos. So you can go in and you can then you can put a comment or a description to that photo as well. So that's a really nice way of doing it. Yeah, and most of the kind of apps out there will allow you to put a description, a caption, a comment with your photo that then kind of is attached to that photo. So that's the way to do it. And I would say from a Facebook point of view, it's lovely that she's keeping the diary, but Facebook is not great for the quality of your photos. So if you ever want to take your photos out, Facebook compresses your photos within an inch of its life. So if you've ever tried to upload a photo and then if you download it directly out of Facebook, it will look awful, because
Really?
obviously they're trying to save space. So
Mm.
they will be getting rid of like all the detail and the pixels and stuff like that. So it's not a kind of a good long-term storage, but for the story, that's nice. But as long as she's kind of keeping a copy of them elsewhere.
Mm.
But yeah, I also like to do kind of voice notes. just capturing the stories of that as well. So it's not necessarily doing it with the photos, but doing kind of like the little story of my dad and the bad DIY, capturing those stories from people as well. That's a really nice thing to do. So taking your kind of legacy and your photo collection beyond photos to
Yes,
be
exactly. I think that's a lovely idea. Yeah, really, really
yeah,
lovely. Okay, that's
very
that's a lot of tips. Have we got all, I mean, obviously you do a lot of work working with people directly, but is that the main ones that people can do a really good job on their own with?
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. And I talk about that. I've got a YouTube channel that we both have chatted about. So I'm always kind of sharing ideas about how people can do that themselves. There's lots of tech out there to help you. But just kind of, I think when it comes to photos, it's just thinking, my way of thinking about it, this has taken a lifetime for you to build all of these photos and all of these memories. You are not going to be able to do it in a day.
Yeah.
However much all of those lovely, organizational programs talk about, it's going to take a while and it's going to be a bit of a project. So simple steps, baby steps, just try some of these things and it will slowly, you'll see the kind of the fruits of your labors. But also just share as you go, because that makes it way more exciting. So when you digitize something,
Yeah.
send it over to go, oh my God, do you remember this photo? Do you remember this holiday? Something that they've probably not seen for ages. So that's a really nice way of keeping momentum.
And actually, just thinking back to the case that I've got, throwing everything away, but maybe making them into photo books and then sharing them with we all have one each.
Yes.
That would be
Yeah.
a better way of
That's a
doing
lovely way of doing it as well. And
it.
actually, my super top tip for your, because you just mentioned your case. So if you have a case just of jumbled photos or a box full of jumbled photos, the quickest way to sort them is to turn them over. So take all of your photos and turn them over. And on the back of those photos, there'll be different papers, sizes. You'll be surprised. There's like Kodak, different kind of sorts. And all you do is you sort them by size and by paper type. And sometimes you might have a little code on the back, sort them by code. And then when you turn them back over, you've got a nice little kind of sections of photos together. And sometimes they might have been printed all together. And then you might find the holy grail of photo organizing, which is someone's written their date on one of them. So
Yeah.
if you know that all of those photos were together and one of them says 1984, the rest are going to be 1984.
Yeah.
That is the quickest way to sort a jumble of photos.
Wow. Who
I love that
knew?
one.
They need a
Yeah,
big, big
but
room for this
I love
case.
that. Yeah, and it's so satisfying as well when you do it.
I'm sure. I mean, yeah, let's call it project. The finished project must be so satisfying and is a real legacy, isn't it?
Yeah, I love it when I've picked up like an entire carload of stuff, which I do quite regularly, and then I deliver back a couple of boxes
Oh,
because I've
wow.
consolidated and they've got some photo books to really enjoy them. It's just it's such a joy for people to
Oh,
really and just enjoy all of those memories and just the stress.
how
Just be
lovely. Lovely. Okay. Well, thanks very much. I hope you've all enjoyed this. I always ask my guests if there's a book that they found helpful, insightful, inspirational, that other people might enjoy as well. And I think you have one in mind, don't you,
I
Amanda?
do. Yes. So this is so if you know me, I'm quite outdoorsy. I love an adventure. I like running. I am all about the medal. But this book, I love this book. So it's called The Adventure Revolution. I think in the current print, it's actually called Adventure Mind, but essentially it's by a lovely woman called Belinda Cook, who I actually know. But it's about kind of how we all need to do more adventures in our lives, whether it's mini adventures, just take ourselves out of our comfort zone to just really see the benefits of going outside, doing adventures. And she's done some really amazing research about how just getting outside on adventures for all ages help us just get rid of stress and anxiety and just kind of embrace life. But you
Don't
don't
go
have
in
to,
with a sense of achievement. Lovely.
yes, and you
Yeah.
don't have to climb Everest to feel that you've done a challenge. So
No.
it's just a really lovely kind of
Yeah.
powerful, as Bear Grylls says at the front, a powerful reminder that adventure is truly a state of mind.
Oh, that's lovely.
So
That's
I can
nice
highly recommend
recommend.
that. Love it.
Okay. Well, I'll put some links to some of the things that you've said, including our YouTube channel. I do hope everybody has enjoyed listening to this as much as I have. if you do save it. There's a lot of information here that you'll want to refer to time and again. If you've got your own tips or have some comments, do share those as well, and share with other people, because I think this is something that everybody could really benefit from. Thank you very much. Thanks so much, Amanda.